How's it going, everyone? I hope you are having a fantastic week, and welcome to the Eminence Legacy Podcast. Don't forget to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Also visit our website at eminencelegacy.com, where you will find online live coaching, and you will also find our free blog. And today we're going to be talking about adjusting to change, or going to transitions. So one thing that is unique about our time and age is that our ancestors never had to see so much change within a short period of time. So in a span of a couple of decades, you saw an increase in technology, a change in the workplace. Many people are now working from home, something that would have been unfathomable just a few years ago. But how do we cope with these changes? A lot of us are very comfortable following the same routine and not wanting to go through change, which is perfectly understandable. After all, going through change is an intimidating thing.
Some of those changes are caused by life, other times it's caused by us. For example, sometimes life gives us a tragedy, maybe a loss, or whether it's somebody we love, or maybe a job that we were so comfortable with, or maybe just your kids move out to go to college or start their own life. That's one type of change. But then we have the other changes that we cause ourselves. For example, we're going to buy a new house and we're going to move to a new community, or we're going to change jobs. So those are the type of transitionings that we see happening over and over again. So what we're trying to drive home here is that help you transition and make you better at doing this, because somehow we're caught up in the idea that life needs to be in order, that there's a certain way things need to happen. The truth is that life is more momentous. Life is made up of a lot of failings and fallings. A lot of times life is not in order. It is not linear. So we have to kind of find like a game of Tetris. We're going to have to find the pieces like a puzzle and try to puzzle it together in order to make that transition smooth.
Okay, so for us today, you did bring us several recommendations about how to adjust to change. One of them is accepting it. Accepting that there's already something inherently different about your routine, or something different than what you're used to. And accepting it is going to be the first part, because after all, denying it is not going to change the current situation. So in the examples that you gave, if your kids have reached the age and maturity where they decided it's time to move out, then there's really nothing you can do to stop them. And it becomes to the point that if you do try to change that, then it's going to become problematic within your relationship with other people, because as the world moves on, there's a certain sense where we have to change along with it.
There's 3 emotions that people struggle with. When transitioning, you're going to find that there's fear, there's sadness, there's shame. There could be guilt, anger, loneliness. There could be a lot of different things emotionally happening when the transition is happening. So what we're going to try to identify here is the emotion that you're going through. Find out what really is causing that that feeling, and we need to name it. Acknowledge it, but don't accept the limitations that you have to be able to work and try to move forward.
So what you're suggesting is, okay, so there's this new change in my life, right? So let's say in the example that my kids are moving out, or perhaps there's been a change in the job situation. So it's a good idea to be able to identify what you're feeling at the moment. That way you'll be able to cope with it or address it.
That'll be the first tool of transition, is to identify the circumstance. We need to accept the emotion that comes with the new state that you're about to endure. So eventually we're going to get to the next tool. So we need to find out that and accept that your current circumstance does not define you. Your life circumstance is not who you are. It's just a stage in life that you're going through.
So I could definitely see that. So let's say you do see the transition that is going to occur in your life, right? So the same way that we tend to like procrastinate with so many things, we could say, you know what, I feel this way towards this certain situation. However, I don't feel like addressing it right now. So what essentially what ends up happening is that you start delaying it, rather than addressing it during the moment. So there's a few benefits that I see from being able to identify the emotion. First of all, one of the things that I see is that, I feel this way about it. Fine. What am I going to do about it? Right? But if we don't give ourselves the time to process it, to see how it's going to affect us emotionally, there's not going to be a clear, linear, or strategic way to address this new coming change, because we don't even want to face the current emotions that we would be feeling due to the current change.
We confuse the life situation with actual life. We confuse what we're feeling with life, and we kind of have to start sticking a little bit to the facts when we start getting emotional. For example, of a breakup with a relationship you've had for years, you need to identify exactly what it is you're feeling in order for you to be able to close a chapter and move on. But if we keep going back and forth and trying to figure out what you could have done different and what could have been avoided or whatnot, is going to get you nowhere, because that is, more than anything, you're just going in circles other than identifying exactly what is that you're feeling.
All right, so the next tool that we have on here is to mark it, ritualize the change. What can you tell us about that?
Well, when we say ritualize the change, the crazy thing about it is that even if you don't mark it, your body tends to remember. It creates a date in your body, your soul, in your mind. In that event that happened in your life, you're going to remember it regardless. So if it's something that you're really, really dealing with, that it's something that you want to move on, but you kind of want to find a way to move on with it, that means that you need to create a kind of freedom that gets you unstuck from the feeling of feeling overwhelmed or beaten down. You can simply pull back, pivot, and reboot. So how do we do this? We create something that we could remember. Let's say remember the person that we loved, or remember a happy moment, something that we could identify with, that is going to change your perspective of how you see the current situation.
Okay, so like in a certain sense, find something that could, let's say, for lack of a better term, so move on into the change in your life, but at the same time be able to find those rituals or those meaningful items or memories that can at the same time help us appreciate where we're coming from, and and through that be able to harvest the strength that we need to be able to adapt to change.
So what we're looking for is for us to be able to, for instance, go through a process of mourn. We're mourning for that loss, but that loss, with that loss, we need to remember that there's going to be renewal. So there's going to be renewal of patterns, and we need to acknowledge that we have maybe lost something we cared about, or that we wish it wouldn't have been that way, but nevertheless, it's gonna open new doors for you. It's not gonna be the end of the road for you. That's what we want to shift the mindset to, creating a way to calm us down and be able to go through the process of moving on.
Okay, so the order of events is, so you have a major change in your life, right? So first of all, before you start setting any sort of direction, so go ahead and acknowledge the feeling. That way you can go ahead and address it at the moment. And then from there, be able to realize that, that's the feeling. Let's go ahead and start out with a strategy that is going to be real life, that there's going to be applicability to it, to apply to our real lives and be able to adapt to those changes. Along with that is creating a ritual, meaning so within that mourn of loss, or because of that hurt, because of the change that occurred, so from there be able to find something whether it could be memorable or maybe something that it could be, like significant, something that could tie us to our past and remind us of the things that we're grateful for, and made us happy at the moment, and be able to find those same moments in that present time.
Yes, basically we want to uplift ourselves. Now, that one of the things that is crazy is that we fail to forget that the way up is the same way down. So it's something that we're always focused on reaching the summit, but we forget that there's a lot of things on the bottom that we enjoyed while getting to the summit. So we need to find that comfort, that feeling of goodness, and start working our ways into moving on past that feeling.
So the next tool that we have is being able to shed it, to give up our old mindsets.
In order for us to be able to give up our own mindsets, we need to pick something in our life, a habit that is probably not helping us much, or something that we've been doing much that it's not really taking us to where we want to be. A lot of times we're disoriented, and we say we want something, but our daily walk does not match our goals. So anything that you want to do, you have to match up with the things that you're doing during the process. So to move forward, sometimes we must let go and forgive. That's one of the big things, that we need to let go and forgive. Not only those around us, but we need to forgive ourselves. Because a lot of times we're stuck thinking that we made bad decisions, or we did something that wasn't good enough. But those thoughts are faults, because we're not always going to be perfect, and a lot of times we're going to be in a crossroads that we at that moment might have been the best solution for us, but it wasn't actually what's going to get us to where we need to be. So this giving up the old mindset, we need to go into ourselves and kind of make a self-evaluation to see where we could actually change things and walk our second journey. And we need to remember that in order for us to move forward, we need to let go of old tools, because old tools are not going to help you. Like what helped you in the morning is not going to necessarily the program in the morning is not going to necessarily help you in the afternoon. A lot of times what was valuable in the morning is no longer valuable in the afternoon. So you have to kind of think those process through. Okay, what can I change right now? What habits can I let go of so we could move on? Now, in the process, you might lose a couple of friendships or relationships, but it's not necessarily that you're abandoning that relationship. Is that you need to outgrow it in order for you to move on. We must unlearn old things in order for us to be able to be capable of adding new things into our life.
Right. So basically, the human mind is remarkably good at forgetting negative experiences. Now, I'm not saying that that you completely forget it, or that certain loss doesn't just goes away automatically. What I'm saying is that human beings as a species, we're incredibly resilient. So a negative experience in our lives can often be in our memories, we're not going to remember the exact same way. We're more likely to remember good memories than we are likely to remember bad memories. However, the same is true when it comes to habits. So there's a certain sense in which you cannot start with a new habit until you start abandoning the old. So if you want to be able to shed it, or to be able to create something new, you need to reflect on yourself and say, okay, so what am I still doing the same that has not shown any effects? What change can I make now that would give me a different result from what I've previously been getting?
So you might think, okay, so how is that going to help? Just if we go back to the first 2 points, a lot of times, once we take that responsibility, once we take that initiative to start going through the process and transitioning into becoming like going through the seasons, a lot of times we notice that we messed up somewhere along the line, that we did something for us to inflict that that new transition in your life. Or maybe you could have done a little bit better in an area that could have changed the results of the outcome of what you're going through. So this is where you get to analyze yourself and you get to better yourself. The worst place that you could find yourself is, well, this is the way I am, and I can't change anymore because I'm already like this. That's the worst place you could be in your life, because at that point it's gonna be almost impossible for you to go through the changes. And unfortunately, life is gonna bring you those changes. It's been said that we're gonna go through life and we're gonna have in our lifetime we're gonna have a disruptor every 1 to 2 years. That means that something's gonna happen in our lives, and from those disruptors from 1 to 2 years, and in the period of 1 to 10 years, there's gonna be big things that are actually gonna make a big impact in your life. So when you think about that, is that every year you're going to go through those transitions. Now, even if you're doing a regular transition, you need to keep in mind it takes you 1 to 5 years for you to actually finish that transition. Let's say you're moving into a new city. It's going to take you 1 to 5 years for you to actually establish yourself there. You're going to change jobs, same thing. You're going to go to college, same thing. You're going to get married, same thing. Every transition is a period of wait, and you're gonna have to go through it. We can't go around it. Now, things are not gonna necessarily happen in order, but they are gonna happen.
Yeah, so let's get some of those scenarios and apply some of these. So let's say in the scenario that you gave, right? So moving into a new city. So identify the emotions. First step. Okay, you're nervous. You're afraid. You're a little bit overwhelmed trying to be able to get all the new informations, such as where am I going to go get my grocery store, where's my closest grocery store, where am I going to go to vote, what church am I going to go to, so you start with a very overwhelming feeling, and that it's something that you need to acknowledge that, okay, I understand, like, I'm ready to move on to a new city. However, this is one of the things that I'm going to encounter. One of the things, the next step would be to ritualize it. Okay, so what in my old city did I enjoy that I would at least want to find in this new city? I really love going to sushi, to go have sushi every single Friday. So what's my new favorite sushi spot in this new restaurant? I like going to bike rides. What are the good bike trails here? So be able to bring some of that familiarity that you had before over to your present time in the new current situation. Give up the old mindsets. Okay, you know what? You're gonna like the old route that you had to take to work is out the door. You used to know that, it used to take me 20 minutes to get to work, and now it's gonna take me 45 minutes with the traffic here. So now you're going to have to shed the old habits and create a new one. That might include waking up early, at least earlier than what you previously did before. So this is like am I understanding this correctly?
That is perfectly correct. I mean, those are the changes that you need to start doing, and you kind of nailed it when you explained it.
And with that, we go on to the next point, which is going to be try new things. You see, change, as long the first thing that comes to mind, and even when I was forming the notes for this, I kept thinking is like, okay, change tends to be a bad thing, and that's so far from the truth. It's not always a bad thing. Sometimes they're good things. Like in the list of examples that you gave, there's so many good ones, like getting married or having a child. I mean, those are beautiful things to do. But now that you're in the new situation, maybe it's time to try something new. Maybe you've been doing the same thing for far too long, and now it's time to expand your horizons. So and back to the new city example, maybe before you didn't have access to, you name it, like axe drawing is something that I tried recently, that I thought was a lot of fun, because it so happened that my town opened it, but it's like, and I've talked to couples before that they say it's like, what do you guys talk about so often? It's like, well, I mean, when it comes to, what do your spouse talk about all the time? Why is it that you guys are always together? It's like, well, because we're not the same people that we were when we first got married, like, and it's like we didn't stay stagnant in the person that we used to be, meaning that the same things that I learned to like new things, and not just by myself, but things that we both enjoy, and that gave us new things to try.
The greatest, I guess, the greatest thing that chaos creates is a response to a new creation. Usually, when there's chaos, there's gonna be things that's gonna fall in place that is gonna create something new, and it's gonna allow you to actually find out more about yourself going through the process. So we need to change the narrative and update your story, and we need to remember that we're the hero of our own story. So we cannot get stuck and keep blaming the villain. Without the villain in your life, you're not gonna be the hero. So we need those villains in our lives. We need that chaos. We need that change. We need us to be that hero in our life. We need to change our narrative. And if we've lost our identity, this is the process that we go through to finding it. Find your new why. That's very important for you to know, why are you doing something? Why is it that you want to change? A new meaningful purpose for your life. You need to script your happy ending. Make it upbeat. It is in your power to write that story that you've always wanted. Our story has no meaning unless we give it a meaning. So it is up to us to give our story a meaning. And happiness, guys, is very temporary, but the meaning of our lives is everlasting. We have to remember that the meaning of our lives is everlasting. When the day comes to close the books on our lives, they're gonna talk about they're gonna talk about the person that we were. They're not gonna talk about how happy you were. They were gonna talk about the meaning of your life. We need to control the meaning of it.
All of this conversation reminds me of an episode that I watched from The Office a long time ago. So there's an episode, right, where everybody's coming to the office like a usual day of work, and there was a construction crew in the parking lot, and the whole office was complaining about them having to walk a further distance in order to be able to get to work, because they had to park more far away than they usually would. I can't remember which character, but one of them had mentioned, I've been wanting to incorporate more walks to my daily routine, so I'm just going to take advantage of this construction to be able to fit that in. And that's a good perspective to have. It's like, rather than finding the reason to complain or to be upset about it, try to find, the part of it that you can gain something out of it. It doesn't always have to be a loss.
Actually, the redemption narrative is very important. This is where we get to rewrite our wrongs. And neuroscience has proven, and that's why there's that creation of vision boards, that it has this deep connection where we see something when we create a story, that it stimulates our mind to be able to overcome and to do those new changes in our lives.
And the other thing too is, go ahead and share with other people. So if you are going through a transition in your life, and like I said, it doesn't always have to be negative. It could also be something positive, but it's something that you can share with other people that have been in similar experiences or have already seen something of that nature before. Because several things can come out of this. For one, is that it's going to help create your narrative, your story of where you come from. How did you feel? How did you end up there? How are you going? And this other person might be able to help you to how to make that plan of action. How is it that you're going to be able to create new healthy habits out of this transition? How is it that you'll be able to let go of that which was lost or that which was changed? So this is why it's important to be able to find somebody that we are willing to trust, somebody that we can share with, and somebody that perhaps, even if they haven't had that exact situation, they're just good listeners and will be able to provide that sort of feedback.
Also, those people can help you find your new why. And that is very important, again, for us to find a new why. Start questioning ourselves. And if you find the right person to guide you and coach you, or at least listen to you, like Alfonso was saying, we need to find those people. What makes me significant? We need to find out what makes me significant. What makes you significant in your journey, and how can you support yourself? How can you support yourself through others? How can you leverage that in order for you to be able to get new insights about yourself? Connection is very important, connecting with people that we love. So it's very important for us to share it. And at that point, you're going to find out who will come with you in this journey. Because a lot of times there's other people trying to make the same climb, trying to make the same journey, but they're scared. And a lot of times when you start sharing it, you're going to be able to find people that are able to build with you and help you build you up at the same time.
That's right. And as you go ahead and apply all of these tools, guess what? You're ready to launch. You're ready to be your new self. So none of us are the same person that we were several years ago. You know, you look at the pictures of yourself from when you were back in high school, and you're like, why did I wear that? You know, what? Like, you listen to the same song, and then you're like, what did I find so appealing about this song? You know, you look at the shows that you used to watch as a kid, and then you're excited to watch it again as an adult, and you're like, what was I watching what was I thinking when I was younger? Because this is not the way I remembered it. It was more of the nostalgic factor. But at the end of the day, we want to be in a position where we're happy of the new person that we've become, because ultimately these changes are going to be developing us as a person. It's what's going to be developing our character. We're going to have those dragons that we're going to have to slay in our lives, and we are going to be the heroes in those stories. So what is the story that you want to tell?
Once you start going through this process, you're going to find that life is like a bicycle. We need to find that balance in order for us not to fall off. So this is the tools that we're trying to give you so you could get there. Now, when we're talking about launching it, this is the next step. We're gonna unveil our new self. So what does that look like? Well, we need to celebrate our small wins. We need to be able to work with new projects and share our work and our progress with others, and never give up your happy ending. The end of your dream can be the start of a new one. A lot of times we think that when something finishes, nothing can continue, but look at all the spin-offs that we're seeing on the movies. I mean, they keep remaking and trying to make something better. That's what we need to do with our lives. We need to continue to add to our life as we're going through to be able to create that hero of ourselves in our own story. The next step, and this will be the last one, would be to tell it. In order for us to tell other people about the story. This is very important because this is where you go back to the campfire and start sharing with other people the story of your life. And this is going to be something that will encourage other people to go through those changes, and you're going to help somebody else come out at the other end successful in their transition in life. Agencies, stories empower us. That's very important to remember, that every story that we make, that we create, empower us. There wouldn't be Prince Charming if there wasn't a Sleeping Beauty. So she had to sleep during the process in order for her to find her Prince Charming. When we talk about the Ugly Duckling, there had to be an ugly duckling in order for them to even create that story of it becoming a swan. So stories empower us. Belonging connects us with people, and that's the connection comes with the stories that we tell them. So when we're telling our story, we're connecting with people. We're being able to help them in their own journey. And they might have questions that you could help them with, or you might just help each other out during the process. The cause gives us a purpose. We need to focus and a reason of us to exist. So make sure that we're we tell it. We tell our events. I mean, that's how we get all these wonderful stories of people that overcame certain situations, and we get motivated, and we're able to continue ourselves, because we see that are people that have been worse than us that get better than us. But at the same time, we've seen people that are better than us that eventually get worse than us. The power is in us, in the narrative of our story. What is it that we're creating? What is it that we're saying? And we need to work from within.
Alrighty, folks, and with that, this concludes this week's episode. Don't forget to support us on Patreon. If you like what you hear, you'll go ahead and find that in the show notes. You'll also find us on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Also look us up at eminencelegacy.com, where you will find blogs and also your own personal life coach that can be done virtually. So look us up, and we hope that you enjoyed this podcast, and if you enjoy what you hear, please consider supporting us. Have a great rest of your week. Bye bye.